Hello, my name is Blackacre and this is Shitty iPhone Video because I really want to make a video about this Bravely Default 2 build and I didn't feel like buying a capture card just for that. So this is a build that I haven't really seen people talk about, and it's one that got me through a lot of the late game and post game fights. I've done all of them, including the final boss, except for one quest exclusive fight that is not as difficult as the post-final boss that I did using this strategy. And the reason why I want to show this strategy, and the reason why I think it's better than some of the other ones that deal, 99,999 damage that you see online is, one, it's fucking big-brained as heck, and two, you don't need to be high level. Spoilers ahead, by the way, for gameplay things. Not story, gameplay things that happen in chapter 6. So, spoiler, 3, 2, 1, go. I beat all the portal challenges. All of them. Under level 60. Actually, it's a lie. The very last one that had the last asterisk, I was at level 64, but that was because of story progress getting me there naturally, not because of grinding. You could do this at low level. You don't need the high levels and high stats for damage output. This is elemental strat. And if someone wants to make a higher quality video talking about this, you have my blessing, but call it Blackacre's elemental strat, or the Blackacre elemental strat. So the way it works is by abusing how elemental resistances work. In Bravely Default 2, there are 4 levels. At -1, you take double damage. At 0, you take normal damage. At +1, you take half damage. +2, you take no damage. And +3, you absorb. So let's go party member by party member. And I'm actually going to start with Elvis. By the way, they all have the same stats. Anyone could be anything. But Elvis is the tank, the shield master. The thing about the shield master, once it hits level 12, you get 2 really cool things out of it. One, you automatically step into place to protect allies who are close to death. You always had this, but you also, once you hit level 12, doing this gets you MP and BP. This is not required for the strategy to work, but it makes it 10 million times better. Actually, it might actually be required. So the purpose of Elvis is have everybody except him at low HP. If you could start the battle this way, great. If not, I have ways to get it set up. And to make sure that for any opponent to hit anybody with anything, they have to get through Elvis. And secondly, this is Elvis's equipment. The crux here, this is customizable. You could put in, I have instant death and do immunity here. You could replace that with stop immunity. You could replace it with paralysis immunity, whatever. The stats don't matter. What matters is how many things you can get to +2 and +3. So in this particular build, I have Ice Fire Shield, Typhoon Shield, and Dragon Scale Armor. This gets me 2 levels of water, wind, and electric resistance, and 3 levels of fire resistance, plus 1 level of earth resistance, and here 1 level of light resistance. This is pretty suboptimal. Actually, what I would do here is probably make that an earth resistance. You can't get 2 levels of resistance to everything, but in most fights, you just need 1 thing. But if I was doing this against, say, the boss group, where it's the red mage, the white mage, the vanguard, and the white mage, the red mage, white mage, vanguard, ranger, I would replace this with the Gaia shield. And this gives me 2 levels of wind resistance and 3 levels of earth resistance. This is very, very important. So you might be thinking, okay, that's fantastic. With what you've told me so far, using that particular fight as an example, Roddy cannot touch you because he is limited to using earth and wind elemental magic, and you either absorb or are immune to all of it. All I would use for this is, 1 second. is I would use, let's say, a Sands of Time to prevent stop, or whatever prevents slow, Snappy Sash for slowless immunity. And then for this particular build, I would use Unshakable Will to prevent other things. And this is the rest of the build setup. Obviously, dual shields is important. Fast hands lets you move more quickly. That's not really too important. The big thing here is Subjob BP Saver. And you'll notice the subclass is Heroics. Because of this ability, whenever he steps in to protect an ally, he gains a BP. Elvis is not only the one protecting everybody, but he's also a veritable BP bank. You could use Subjob BP Saver in combination with Heroics, and what you get is you would spend all of your turns using the Gift of Courage for free to give BP to anyone who needs it. Or, if MP is what you need, you recover MP as well with that level 12 ability, so use the Gift of Wisdom. Now, if you've unlocked the Brave Bearer asterisk, then you should be replacing Heroics with that. It works just as well with BP Surge. The only thing I'd say is if you're at 0 BP, Brave twice instead of 3 times to make it work. But you could get this started right away without Brave Bearer and you'll be fine. Maximize HP, this is not necessary. It's nice to have, but if I hadn't unlocked level 15 Monk yet, I would use something else. Literally anything. It's not, maybe MP Saver. It's not necessary. Okay, so now you're thinking, great, Roddy can't hurt you, but there's 3 other people there, and 2 of them are assholes who will hurt you. And this is why I call this Elemental Strat. This is the crux of everything. What you need is for the second party member, in my case Seth, to have Oracle secondary. The primary can be whatever, the vessel. I'm using Phantom here for reasons that will become clear later, but the main reason is speed. Phantom is the best to take advantage of other things that Oracle does, but the crux of the strategy is this. Elemental Supplement can force anyone fighting to use any element you wish. This includes enemies. So Elvis has 3 levels of Earth Protection, and all of a sudden, now the Ranger and the Vanguard are forced to use Earth Elemental attacks. So everything they do is healing Elvis, and Elvis is the only one they're allowed to hit. Infinite loop, there is nothing they could do as long as you're fast enough. So my equipment here is focused on speed. As for these, rewarding results is in case anybody is vulnerable to stop. And you could just inflict stop on them and then just keep going. Across the board is really nice to have. It's not necessary. If you're doing this before you get Brave Bearer, I'd replace this with MP Saver and MP Regen from the Beastmaster and Arcanist classes, respectively. Now, the other 2 members are just to make everything tick, but just make everything a bit more consistent. Gloria is a bard because Shut Up and Dance can be used to get anyone to move whenever. And that means having Elvis move to use Gift of Courage to refresh everybody's BP. Otherwise, depending on the fight and the situation, he might never move. And then Spirit Magic is for secondary. The main purpose of this is, first of all, re-raise is how you get everybody low HP effortlessly. And then aside from that, Devotion coupled with MP Saver restores MP to everybody. And Spirit Bringer is another way to get MP MP to everybody. I'd recommend actually Pure Bringer if you're doing the fight against Roddy and company, because that gets rid of Provoke, from the Vanguard, which is a problem. The abilities, the only one that matters aside from Subjob, BP Saver, maybe MP Regen, MP Saver, is Spearhead. If you notice, she's using a spear. This means she always goes first and can set the pace of the battle with re-raises and singing and whatever she needs to make sure that nobody stays dead. The re-raises are the important thing. She's not a white mage because you only need to re-raise once, and then Shut Up and Dance becomes the most important thing you could do. So with Seth, Gloria, and Elvis doing these three things, the opponent will never hurt you. The only things that can break through this strategy are specifically an enemy who can constantly purify themselves. The post-game final boss can do this at regular intervals in their second phase, and it becomes really annoying. Or specifically non-elemental magic. The most deadly enemy with this is either the rematch against Prince Castor and company, because the Arcanist is there and he has Meteor and the entire strategy falls apart. So the name of the game is to kill him that particular guy as quickly as possible. Or against someone who uses every element. Adam can actually do this, but the thing about Adam, he's vulnerable to stop. Remember this guy? Phantom's level 12 ability means that status ailments will always work. Attempts to stop the opponent with Oracle will always succeed, and Adam happens to be vulnerable to stop. A lot of opponents are. The Pictomancer is both Adam and the Phantom are, etc. And so against those guys, you just win immediately. So yeah, the Brave Bearer asterisk user, he can't hurt you with the strategy. He can't do anything to you. Prince Castor, he heals you. You just have to make sure you're using the right element. Again, going back into the Prince Castor and company fight, I would make sure to have as much resistance as possible to every element that the Arcanist uses, so that as long as he doesn't use Meteor, you're fine. And there are ways to make it work out, such that you have +2 immunity to everything he can throw at you. I don't remember the exact combination at the moment. So the problem is you're not dealing any damage. The last member here is Adele. And Adele can do basically any damage dealing build. I am currently with her doing a Dragoon Berserker build that focuses on spamming Death's Door, which is going to be crucial to when you get to low HP. Death's Door becomes more powerful that way. I think it works synergistically with the rest of the strategy. For that reason, I think Last Resort is really important here. I would have MP Regen instead of Critical Amp on her, but one, Gloria can heal her, can recover her MP with Devotion. And two, I was lazy. Adele is my physical attacker, was my physical attacker all game. I never leveled her Arcanist, didn't need to. So she'll just spam Death's Door, but you could do whatever. You can do, obviously pre-level 15 Berserker, you could do Amp Strike. You can do Neo Cross Slash or Ultimatum. You can do Humanoid Slayer, though I wouldn't really recommend that one. Obviously, Godspeed Strike is an option, and that's what I use for a lot of the battles. It is overpowered. It is completely broken. I actually personally did not use it for much of the playthrough, but I brought it out for these battles because I felt like I needed to. The only other battle besides specifically the Arcanist rematch where this is a problem is up against the Gambler and company, Bernard, and that portal rematch, because the Gambler spins a wheel to determine the element. And you can't get +2 immunity to every single element in the game. It's just not possible. So you basically have to keep yourself topped off using your chosen element. And it could be any element in battles where the opponent doesn't have a preferred element. For that battle, I would obviously prefer choosing wind because of Bernard. So just make sure that you take out the gambler first. Also, you can use magic. I've done this, Seth was my magical attacker, and I've done versions of this where Adele was the Oracle, with the Phantom Oracle. And Seth had a Red Mage build or an Arcanist build using elemental attacks. And if everyone's at low HP but Elvis will step in for everybody if I use something like Meltdown. And if the element we've chosen for Meltdown, chosen for Absorption happens to be fire or wind, he will recover HP that entire time and nobody else will take any hits. This also mitigates the potential weaknesses of the Arcanist's Wild Wizardry ability, which potentially causes everything to backfire onto your allies, because Elvis will step in. And if you've chosen Dark as your element to absorb, you could spam Doomsday constantly and be fine. The thing about this is, again, one thing I will mention, across the board makes this easier to maintain the elemental supplement on multiple opponents at all times. It's not necessary though. I have done this. I have beaten all the portal fights pre-Brave Bearer without across the board. It just takes a little bit more management of time and resources. So yeah, that's Elemental Strat. If you do it correctly, you can beat every challenge the game could possibly throw at you before reaching level 65. Or in my case, before reaching level, let's say 70. You don't need Freelancer with all jobs mastered. You don't need mimic strategies. You don't need strategies involving HP to MP to HP converter into Hellblade or whatever. All you need to do is make sure that the enemy can't hurt you. At this point, the only other thing that hurts the strategy is if the opponent happens to have reflect physical damage, in which case the solution is just keep your damage either topped off on re-raises or use magic. But the final portal fight has one person who is immune to magic and one who reflects physical damage. So just use Godspeed Strike and keep your damage dealer topped off on re-raises at all times, and you should be fine. So that is Elemental Strat, Blackacre's Elemental Strat. Thank you for slogging through this whole video, and let me know what you think.